sunsets. I wanted to be just like Jeff Davis when I grew up, tackling Seminoles and Bulldogs, playing football in the mud. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. I feel really sorry for our sisters to the south, 'cause they come up here every other year and get punched in the mouth. Oh, and every home Saturday, it gives us the chills to watch those boys in orange run together down that hill. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Oh, somewhere up in heaven, Gaines Adams makes us sad, and that old Banks McFadden is the best damn running back. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Everybody, damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Oh yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Tuesday to everybody. The start of another college football week begins today. Like I've said before, I love these Tuesday streams because I haven't streamed since the game on Saturday that I did. And there's always a lot to talk about. There's a lot of great games this weekend. We'll get into all those. I also want to talk about the football game we saw last night between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. Lots of stuff in the news. I also, real quick before I get into the chat room here, I want to give the announcement. Of course, every Tuesday I announce my schedule for the rest of the week as far as streaming goes. Of course, you know, I already know. On Thursday, I'll be on at 4 p.m. like scheduled. If you're new here, hit like and subscribe. I do 2 live streams a week plus a live play-by-play and reaction video during a live game every Saturday. And the game I will be doing this Saturday is actually a 12 o'clock game. So I always have to work these games around when Clemson's playing. That's the only thing that kind of stinks about this. There's actually a bunch of good games at 12 and 12:30. There's a whole slew of good games at 3:30, but Clemson's playing at 3:30, so of course I won't be streaming during the Clemson game because I'm going to be watching that. So the one that I've chosen to do, and I'm actually glad that this one is at 12 o'clock, so I can do it, is the game where game day is this week, Oklahoma and Texas. The Red River Shootout, the Red River Rivalry, whatever they're calling it this year, I don't know. It's a good chance for me, first of all, to do a Big 12 matchup. I haven't done one of those yet. And also to see Texas. I have seen several Oklahoma games in full this year. I haven't seen a single full game of Texas. I've seen, you know, highlights here and there, maybe like one actual quarter of live football. So I'm really excited to do that. So unless something changes with my schedule and Mrs. Peete tells me that 12 o'clock on Saturday is not a good thing, then everybody mark that down on your calendar. 12 o'clock Saturday afternoon, Texas and Oklahoma. Check in with me. Come join me. And we'll have a good time with that. Let's look into the chat real quick, see who's in here. Let me see if I can fix this chat. Good afternoon, Miranda Dansby, TTD Tyler CX. He says, yo, 81 Clemson Tiger. Good afternoon, sir. Cyrus and Knox Bowen. He says, go Dogs. Comic Dude 45, what's up, man? Nick Bro in the house says, good afternoon, Pete. Cyrus and Knox Bowen says, good day to be a dog. Cyrus, did you change your name? Because there's several people on here that have that same profile picture, or at least one that's similar. And I don't know if you're somebody else, you changed your name or what. But anyway, either way, welcome. Matt Rhodes, good afternoon. He says, go Tigers, as in go LSU Tigers. And you know how I know that? Because of the way he spelled go. All right. TTD Tyler CX says, how you been, Pete? I've been good. I'm exhausted because I stayed up late last night watching that Monday Night Football game. It was so exciting. And I was watching the Sports Fury, do their thing. They do all the streams for the primetime NFL games, Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night, and I was having a lot of fun. So I was up late, got up early, and I am dragging today. What's up, Mark Dudley? Good afternoon, sir. All right, so before we get into the college football news, which I'm sure everybody's here is eager to talk about, I just want to talk about last night's game. I mean, not so much about the game, but about Patrick Mahomes, really. I mean, they said that there's 10 NFL quarterbacks right now that are on pace to have 5,000 yards. That's unheard of in the NFL. A lot of that has to do with the rule changes. A lot of that has to do with the way that they've changed, from pro-style type of offenses to college-style offenses. I mean, there's probably half or more of the NFL teams now that are not. I mean, they're running basically college spread systems, one version of it or another. And I've been saying this for years, and everyone tells me I don't know anything about football. Oh, the college spread system will not work in the NFL. You know, they do it here and there for a couple of trick plays, but that's not going to ever work in the NFL with the athletes they have and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm here to tell you it's happening faster than anybody ever knew. And you're going to continue to see it. It won't be probably another 5 years before almost every single team in the NFL is running a spread system. And, of course, there's lots of young talent to do that with. But Patrick Mahomes is just an absolute magician. Did you guys see that left-handed pass he did? I mean, everybody knew he was good. When he was at Texas Tech, he just played on a terrible team. But he's even better, faster than I thought he was going to be. He's just so much fun to watch. He reminds me of like a mix between a Brett Favre and a Baker Mayfield. If you could put those two together, the toughness of Brett Favre and the grittiness of Brett Favre and just the exciting way to watch him play, and of course just the arm talent and accuracy of Baker Mayfield. The guy's he's got it all. That Ohio State and Penn State game was such a great game. Yes, it was great, and I knew it would be. I actually predicted. I'll be honest here. I said that I thought that Ohio State would win. This is in the video leading up to the game, not during the game, because I actually changed my opinion right before the game when I was live. I said that I thought Penn State would win a close one at home, but I said earlier in the week that I thought that Ohio State would win by 1 or 3 points, and they won by 1 point. Nola, good afternoon, sir. He says LSU should have jumped Clemson. Opinion, sure. I mean, I to be honest, and I'm not picking on you or anybody else because I get dozens and dozens and dozens of these comments every single day now because every time I upload a video about the polls and who beat who, who's ranked and who's not, and it just, to me, it doesn't matter. I mean, literally, I don't care where Clemson's ranked. You could say LSU deserves to be ranked ahead of Clemson. I'm fine with that. I really don't care. Excuse me, I got the hiccups now. All I care about is the rankings that the College Football Playoff Committee puts out after Week 8. I think that these AP polls are completely meaningless and very severely flawed. What's up, Prince 6'1"? Good afternoon. I mean, there's no way to. So the AP poll starts off Week 1 when they haven't seen a single team play and they don't know anything about that football team. They're going off what they think and what they, and in some ways what they did last year. Completely meaningless. There's more turnover in college football than any other major sport in America. I mean, you lose seniors, you lose juniors to the NFL. I mean, you could lose anywhere from 20% of your starters to 80%, depending on the given year. And it's just, there's no way to predict before the season starts. So, in other words, South Carolina was ranked number 24 in the country when Georgia beat them. Okay? Is South Carolina a top 25 team? No. I'd be hard-pressed to say whether or not a top 40 team. So, yeah, they beat a ranked team on the road. Well, let's see where South Carolina is after Week 8. That's probably more a good gauge of whether or not they should have been ranked in that game or not. Same with every other team. It's just it doesn't matter to me. Let's see here. Where will the Gators be ranked if we beat LSU? Again, I don't know. You know what? I don't even. I will glance at the AP polls, but I don't spend any sort of amount of time. I mean, somebody had to tell me yesterday, what do you think about Clemson dropping to number 4 in the poll? I didn't even know. I mean, I literally wasn't seeking it out, and I could care less. So if they beat LSU, what are they ranked now? Is Florida even ranked now? How do you feel about Auburn's offense anymore? I actually am kind of disappointed in Auburn's offense. I thought that Stidham in his second year was going to come out there and look a lot better than he did last year. And I realize it's not all Stidham. They lost Petaway and Kerryon Johnson last year, and that was a big blow to them. But everybody loses great players every year. The difference between the top teams and just a great team is reloading and replacing those great players and continuing to win. I don't know what people are thinking about Gus Malzahn. They just gave this guy an extension and a raise. Everybody that got an extension and a raise in the offseason in the SEC, let's look at it. Not even just in the SEC. So Gus Malzahn did, right? Will Muschamp did, which I said at the time was a horrible mistake. The guy still had 3 years left on his contract, and they gave this guy an extension and a raise just for winning 9 games one time. And the only reason they won 9 games is because they were playing in a abnormally terrible SEC East division where Tennessee and Florida were dumpster juice. And I mean, come on. And then, so of course, my favorite of all favorites, Paul Johnson. I mean, the guy didn't even do good last year, and they gave him an extension and raise. Talk about mind-blowing. And these teams get what they deserve when they do this crap. Because here's the way business – I don't know. Listen, I never ran a professional sports organization or a football organization. I never coached at any high level. I never played at any high level. But, I mean, do these people lack common sense? The only reason that you give a coach – an extension and a raise years before his contract is up is to keep other teams from coming and poaching him. That's it. In Paul Johnson's case, nobody's looking to come steal Paul Johnson from Georgia Tech, right? Nobody's looking to come steal Will Muschamp from South Carolina. Make them play their contract out, or at least get into the last year of their contract before you start handing them a bunch of guaranteed money and 6 years an extension. I mean, these teams get what they deserve when they do this stuff. South Carolina, whoever's the athletic director and boosters there, you get what you deserve by giving Will Muschamp an extension after 2 years. Same thing with Gus Malzahn. Now, Gus Malzahn might be a different situation because Gus Malzahn may have been poached by, say, Arkansas. Maybe that's a different story. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. I still think they made a big mistake there. But it is what it is. I'm not saying Gus Malzahn is as bad of a coach as Will Muschamp or Paul Johnson, but still not living up to expectations. What's up? Let's see who else came in here. George, good afternoon, George. SEC Dog, good afternoon, sir. See, SEC Dog is carrying on the same rhetoric about Clemson beating unranked teams. Let's see where these teams are ranked when it matters late in the year, right? So if Texas A&M is 10-2 or 9-3, they could easily be a top 20, top 15 team at the end of the year. We don't know about NC State yet. Syracuse could be 10-2. Believe it or not, they actually could. Look at their schedule. I'm sure they would be a top 20 team. Whoever we play in the ACC championship will most likely be ranked in the top 15 or 20. So, yeah. Who have Georgia played? SEC Dog. Who have Georgia played? A terrible South Carolina team? Congratulations, sir. LSU has the best resume in the country. It's crazy how much the committee hates. The committee hasn't even done anything yet. The committee doesn't even say a word until after week 8. The AP is who you're talking about, Nola, not the committee. It'll all work itself out, trust me. Just continue to win. That's all that matters. If you're LSU, if you're Clemson, if you're Georgia, if you're anybody, just keep winning. Don't get blown out. Don't give up 55 points to Iowa on the road if you're Ohio State this year, and you'll be fine. I promise. Jamie McCaslin, good afternoon, sir. Billy Dawson, thank you for checking in. Of course, you'll be here. I already know that. Who Georgia? They played Missouri. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. I got you, Nola. He says he's not talking about this year. Based on who have y'all played right now, LSU should be number one. It means nothing this time of year. Again, we're talking. It's all speculative. The AP poll. It's just. I mean, you could just get 5 guys in their mom's basement, passing around the bong and a bottle of Jack, and get them to come up with who they think the best 25 teams in the country are, and that's about as legit as the AP poll is, because they know just about as much. N'Kosi Perry looking good right now. Yes, he is. And we'll see how he good. That leads me into my next thing. So some of these games this weekend, there's some great games this weekend, obviously. Although this isn't, necessarily a great game, Missouri and South Carolina. Of course, anytime South Carolina plays, I always like to keep my eye on that, especially when they're looking so bad as they are right now. Texas and Oklahoma, which I just talked about, I will be doing that game live. LSU and Florida, very interesting game for obvious reasons. I mean, Florida is much watched TV right now with the whole Mullen thing, and of course LSU is undefeated and highly ranked in the AP poll. Florida State and Miami. Now, Florida State's a dumpster fire, and Miami, I still believe, is probably at least the second best team in the ACC. And of course, they have a new quarterback, and with that new quarterback in there, their team looks completely different. So I know Miami has a lot of injuries, and I'm not one of these guys that sits around and talks about injuries because every team has injuries. But that seems to be all I'm hearing all over the ESPN radio is all the key injuries that Miami has. But anyways, that game is in Miami, and it'll be must-watch TV for a lot of reasons because I love watching Florida State lose, and I also want to see how good Miami looks. Kentucky and A&M, that might be one of the most interesting games in the country this week, right? Because the Kentucky hype train is full force. I mean, they need to put the brakes on that thing, but they won't. And I don't blame them. If I'm a Kentucky fan, I'm super excited that I'm 5-0 and tied for first place in the East, and they should be excited. I think Kentucky's a solid team. However, A&M sitting there with 2 losses in the West is favored in Vegas, and there's a reason they're favored in Vegas because the people that really know about football, the odds makers, when they open this line, they know that Texas A&M is more than likely a better team. I tend to think that A&M is going to put it on Kentucky. And when I say put it on them, do I mean they're going to beat them by 30 points? No, but I don't think it's going to be like a 1-point game or anything. I think A&M is going to win it convincingly. It's in A&M too. Hold on here. Nola says he feels like the whole state of Florida always plays the most meaningful games home every year. Example, Miami, UF 90% of their schedule. Yeah. Who do I have winning at Auburn and Mississippi State? Also, where do you see Kelly Bryant landing? Auburn and Mississippi State is, I mean, that might be the hardest game of the entire week to pick, to be honest with you. I mean, anybody that has any sense would tell you that Auburn should beat the crap out of Mississippi State based on what we saw from Mississippi State last week, number one, and based on the talent level that Auburn has, number two. I don't know. Auburn didn't look too hot last week either, did they? So I still think Auburn will beat Mississippi State, to answer your question. And where do I see Kelly Bryant landing, he asks. The most popular one right now seems to be Auburn, and I think that would fit Kelly Bryant perfectly. It would meet all the criteria. In other words, it's going to be a major program where he'll get lots of national exposure, which is what he wants because he feels like he's going into the NFL as a quarterback. That's a whole nother conversation, number one. Number two, he fits Gus Malzahn's offensive system. I mean, he's an athlete. He's sort of a Cam Newton-esque, not as good as Cam Newton, so don't even start typing about I'm comparing Kelly Bryant to Cam Newton. I'm not, trust me. But he's that type of quarterback. And then, Yeah, and Auburn, of course, will most likely start off the season in the meaningless AP poll next year as a top 10 program who has a shot to at least make a run at the college football playoff, and I think that's another thing he's looking at. So it meets all the criteria of where Kelly Bryant would probably want to go. Another place is Penn State. I don't know so much about that one. I think it would be interesting, though. And as far as the West Coast teams that I'm hearing about, I'm hearing Oregon, UCLA, Arkansas. I don't think Arkansas is going to happen because he doesn't want to spend his last year of eligibility in a complete rebuild, bad football team. So, yeah, that I would say the top two. Another one would be NC State. And the reason NC State's interesting, now, NC State doesn't meet the criteria of somebody who's going to be in the top 10 starting out next year and make have a serious chance of making a run at a college football playoff, more than likely not. But NC State still is close to home. I think that's big for him. He's a guy that lives in South Carolina. And it is still a big enough football program for him to get plenty of exposure. And obviously, it's in Clemson's division. And he knows all the teams in that division very well because he's been there in that division for 4 years now. SEC Dog says, Pete, will Lawrence play this Saturday? Yes. They've already announced that he's going to start the game on Saturday. So, all right, Mark Dudley, thanks for stopping in, buddy. Oh, man, that sucks for Jalen. He wanted to go to Auburn from what I heard. Now, I don't have any inside information or anything, Billy. I mean, I'm just saying I've heard the one I've heard the most is Auburn, and it makes sense. Now, it also makes a lot of sense for Jalen Hurts to go to Auburn if you're Gus Malzahn. So there's two things have to happen, right? The school has to offer it to Kelly, and then Kelly has to accept it. So it's a two-way street. Kelly can't just pick where he wants to go anywhere in the country. They got to offer it to him. And then the schools that do want him, he's got to accept it. So, I don't know whether or not Gus Malzahn would rather have Kelly Bryant or Jalen Hurts. As a matter of fact, Gus Malzahn might be better off having Jalen Hurts over Kelly Bryant because, look at his biggest speed bump in the SEC West is Alabama. Who knows more about it, the way Alabama does things, both offensively and defensively, than Jalen Hurts? So it would be a huge plus for Gus Malzahn and that Auburn offensive staff to have Jalen Hurts on their team for sure. I never considered Jalen Hurts going to Auburn. You're the first person I've heard say that because, I know that at the end of the day, what school you go to and the uniform you wear for 3 or 4 years or whatever, and the pride you carry with that only goes so far. It's still a business, basically. But, how much of the Alabama fan base would absolutely turn on Jalen Hurts and hate him if they ever saw him in an Auburn uniform? And I'd be willing to say a large majority of them would like to throw up at the thought of Jalen Hurts in an Auburn uniform. I wouldn't want to see Kelly Bryant in a Gamecock uniform. That would make me sick to my stomach. So I can completely relate to that. Oh, yeah, that's another one. Nick Bro, great one. Oklahoma, that's another really good one. Apparently they have a phenom coming in next year, freshman quarterback, so I don't know. I don't know. Again, I don't know how good that kid is. It's going to – the last thing Kelly Bryant wants to do is go compete with another phenom true freshman and lose the job after 4 games at Oklahoma. So, again, he's going to have to be promised that job. 100% promised you're going to be the starter, and that's it. No funny stuff before he ever steps foot on campus, or he won't do it. SEC Dog says he must not have had a concussion. Yeah, they're saying he has actually had a neck strain. So I don't know. Hell, who knows how much of that is factual or not, but that's what they're saying. Comic Dude 45 says there's been stories of Michigan football players transferring to Ohio State and vice versa. That's not surprising. Yeah, Michigan football players is different than the quarterback position. It just is. I don't know. At the end of the day, I mean, it's still a business. They're going to go wherever's best for them. So maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe they don't care what the fans think, and that's fine. It's their life. But if Jalen Hurts goes and straps on an Auburn uniform, his days of going back to Tuscaloosa in the future and being a big man on campus there and a star, former player, are probably over. FSU fans trying to explain to me how they aren't beating how they aren't bad. Beating Louisville was impressive, and Samford was really good FCS team. Yeah. No, Stidham has not been playing good. Hey, what's up, Sooner Ace? Good afternoon, sir. Can the Sooners develop a quarterback? What do you mean? I may be misinterpreting what the way you're trying to ask that question, because of course they can. They've got several players that have come through there in recent history starting in the NFL right now. Baker Mayfield being the most notable one. All their quarterbacks are transfers. Okay, I got what you're saying now. Yeah. That's sort of like Michigan, isn't it? Meanwhile, Jim Harbaugh gets paid $9 million a year. The guy was a quarterback in the NFL. He's supposed to be a quarterback whisperer. Meanwhile, every quarterback that he recruits there ends up being a big bust. The only way he can get one that can win him football games, he has to go steal from Ole Miss. And so, yeah, same difference at Michigan. What's up, fake account buster? How you doing, sir? Welcome to the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. Texas Tech developed him, says Nola. Kyler Murray, transfer. Baker Mayfield, transfer. I don't know. Was Sam Bradford a transfer? I don't think he was. The only reason that Baker Mayfield left Texas Tech and went to Oklahoma, or walked on in Oklahoma, or basically lost a job at Texas Tech, is because guess who was coming in there to take his job from him? That's right, a guy named Patrick Mahomes, who was a phenom. If not for Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield may have played out his entire college career at Texas Tech, unless he would have left on his own. Fake account buster says he's here to stop any fake accounts. Okay, how are you going to do that, sir? Prince 6'1" with the hot take. He says, with Trevor Lawrence and our receivers, we could run the air raid offense better than OU this year. I mean, we have again, this is the frustration, and I want to make this very clear. I'm glad you brought that up. I'll address what you just said, because it's interesting what you said, Prince. But I want to go ahead and make this very, very clear. So I've voiced my frustration, and I will continue to voice my frustration as long as it's happening with the Clemson offensive play calling and their sort of overall philosophy. And somehow that's been mistaken and misconstrued as me somehow being worried about Clemson's team. No, listen, there's two totally different situations here. Believe me, I'm not worried about Clemson's team. Players win games, talent wins games. And they've got it in spades, top to bottom. Believe me. And coaching, too. But, I am frustrated with the play calling. I realized that in that Syracuse game last year, or last week, rather, and last year, both. But last week, that, we ran for over 300 yards, and we punched them in the fourth quarter on the ground, and finally, got two consecutive scores and took the lead and won the game. My whole frustration with that wasn't the fact that we did run the ball down their throat in the fourth quarter. It's that we should have been doing that the entire game. That was my frustration. Okay? So people acting as if somehow Clemson fans are ready to jump off a cliff and worried about their team. Trust me, they're not. At least I'm not. I mean, I'm not speaking for everybody. But as far as what you said about the air raid system thing, yeah, we've got the talent to run any. This year, I'm not saying we have the talent year after year after year on offense to do this, but this year with the attack, we're loaded at every single position on offense, except for maybe offensive line, to run any sort of system you'd want. They could do it. Nate Hable was a pretty good too. Won a conference, Rose Bowl, Cotton Bowl. What's up, Hound Dog? Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. Matt Rhodes. Matt Rhodes says, Pete, I do not like how Dabo told the reporter he would take Kelly back after he bailed. Almost cost his team unnecessary loss. What do you think? I'll go ahead and clear that up. At least as far as I know this. Now, I'm not defending Dabo or condemning him or either way. I don't care. What happened was basically the day that Kelly Bryant said he was leaving, right? Or the day after that he said he was leaving and transferring, they said, if he had a change of heart, would you bring him back? And Dabo was basically saying, yeah, if he came to me right now, I'd take him back because, maybe he just made an emotional decision, that sort of thing. Now, once they go into the game Saturday with Syracuse and he's not there, he's not on the team, he's sitting at home on his couch watching the game, I don't think there was a way that Kelly Bryant was going to be offered a position back on that team. So I think there was a small window there of a couple of days after he made that decision that Dabo may have considered taking him back. But once that game was played, just watch the press conference after the game when they asked him about Kelly Bryant. He said, I'm not talking about anybody that's not on this team. In other words, forget it. Kelly Bryant is no longer on the team, and he's not going to be. That's was his nice way of saying it. I'm having mixed feelings about Coach Jeremy Pruitt. I don't understand why we were chasing points in the fourth quarter. Hound Dog, I know it's hard. I know it's hard for a Tennessee fan, and maybe I'm naive in telling a Tennessee fan to be patient because obviously I'm not in that position. As a Clemson fan, I'm not in the position that Tennessee fan is in, and you guys have been more than patient. You've been dealing with this for years and years and years now. It's not something that's just happened last year. I get it. But once you make a decision on your head coach, man, you've got to stick with it. You've got to stick with it for at least, in my opinion, 3, 4, or 5 years. You can't panic the first year. He inherited a dumpster fire, and anybody that's surprised that it's still a dumpster fire after 5 weeks, I'm not. But I see your frustration, but you're going to have to give this guy a shot. Otherwise, you're going to have to hire somebody else and go through this whole process again, and you'll never rebuild that program if you're hiring new coaches every year. What's up, SX Glover? Good afternoon, sir. That's a great. Here's a great example of this, of rebuilding a bad program who's really bad, right? So Nebraska and Scott Frost. Scott Frost, the hottest coach in the country. Okay, last year he could have picked basically any school that was looking for a head coach last year in the country. He could have basically picked it and said, "I want to come there," and they would have hired him, including Tennessee, including any of them. Scott Frost goes to Nebraska. Everyone in Nebraska says we got the best coach in the country, the hottest coach in the country. All of a sudden, we're going to actually maybe make a bowl game this year, maybe win 8, 9 games. No. It doesn't matter how good the coach is. You don't have the players to do it. It's completely meaningless, and it's going to take Scott Frost. Did Scott Frost forget how to coach football from last season to this season? No. Is it just because he went to the Big Ten, the almighty Big Ten, is that much harder? No. It's because there's not any good players on Nebraska's football team. And once Scott Frost gets good football players on that football team, they'll be good, or at least 10 times better than they are now. But it's not going to happen overnight. Same thing with Tennessee. What's up, Tiger Nation? Good afternoon, sir. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic, and I already know you are. So I won't even finish that statement. Hound Dog says he realizes that, you know what? I'm not so sure that hiring a experienced head coach is always the right thing to do. Example number 1, Clemson. We had nothing but experienced head coaches for my entire life. With the exception of Danny Ford, most of them were average. Some of them even below average. Tommy Bowden was the definition of average. But anyways, my point is, there was a lot of interest in that Clemson job after Bowden stepped down, or was asked to step down. Let's be real here. He didn't step down on his own. He was asked to leave, or he would have been fired. But anyway, there was a lot of interest from big name coaches all around the country. that interviewed for that job and wanted the job. Terry Don Phillips, the athletic director at the time, of course, promoted Dabo Swinney because of Dabo Swinney's rapport with the players. The players loved him, and also the fact that he was a great recruiter, and they already knew that. He had already, as a wide receivers coach, recruited some of the best players that Clemson's seen in the past 20 years, and he wasn't even a coordinator. He was just a wide receiver coach. And anyway, my point is, sometimes letting a guy take over a major program without having all the baggage of failure somewhere else, exhibit number one, Will Muschamp, is actually a good thing. They can build their own program the way they want it. There's no baggage. They don't have to constantly hear about what they did at previous programs and comparing it to that. They get to do what they want to do and sort of start fresh. And so now, does that always work out? No, of course not. But I don't think it's a bad thing for a major program to hire a first-time head coach and let him build something. That's just my opinion. May there, Clemson Carson. Good afternoon, sir. SEC Tiger fan 803. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. He says, "Hey Pete, do you think Bama will take a loss before the SEC title game?" No, I don't. I mean, ask me again next week. My opinion might change. But based on what I've seen so far, after 5 games, I don't see anybody that can beat them right now. But things change, right? So, and it's hard to go undefeated no matter how good you are. But right now, today, what's today? October 2nd, 2018, the answer is no. I don't see them losing a game in the regular season. Yeah, nobody's unbeatable. I realize that a lot of Alabama fans want to pretend like they're unbeatable, but nobody's unbeatable. All it takes is one off day from Alabama and one great day for another team. Somebody calling me. Somebody who's supposed to know not to call me right now is calling me. Now I lost my train of thought. Anyway, yes, nobody's unbeatable. Yeah, and SEC Dog agrees with me about the coaching thing, and believe me, they've got one. They've got a first-time head coach at a major program, and of course, look at what he's done with Georgia in a short time. So, I mean, there's arguments to be made on both sides of the issue there, but you have 2 of the top 5 football programs in all of America right now in Georgia and Clemson, who both hired a non-experienced head football coach, or at least a head coach that doesn't have experience in head coaching in football, major football. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence will be good to go Saturday. Good seasons in a row. They have a great coach, and they have a lot of skill on that team. The problem with Wake Forest is their defense is absolutely abysmal, and they actually just fired their defensive coordinator after 5 weeks. So that tells you how bad they are. When you fire your defensive coordinator, just over a third away into the regular season, you know things are bad. So, yeah, I'm not worried about it at all. Can Kentucky put up a fight against Georgia? Yeah, I mean, they could put up a fight against them. I'd be more interested to see how Kentucky plays this week. I consider Texas A&M to be the best team they played by a long shot this year. Okay, so don't tell me, they beat Florida for the first time in 31 years. I realize that Florida's not the Florida of, 5 years ago or even 10 years ago. South Carolina is just not very good. Now, that's all there is to say about that. So, yeah, I'll be very interested to see them go on the road to Texas A&M and see how they play. Now, if they go out there and they beat Texas A&M and they look like good doing it, then I will say that they have a legitimate shot of giving Georgia a game. Braun Strowman fanboy. Good afternoon, sir. He says Bama can't lose. or Bama can't lose, whatever that means. He says Tua is just too good. No, sir. I'm sorry to tell you. That's not true. Anybody can lose. The minute that football team starts thinking that they can't lose is when they'll lose. We need to come out throwing vertical passes and give the ball to ETN a lot Saturday. I agree 100%. Right. Tiger Nation makes a great point. People thought Bama couldn't lose the year they lost the national title to Clemson. Exactly. Listen, I realize that Alabama has every reason to beat their chest. They look like the best football team in the country through 5 weeks by a long shot. They've got all the talent to win every single game, and they probably should. They've got the best coach in the country. 3 boxes checked in a row there. But these guys are not superheroes. I mean, everyone wants to pretend like somehow these guys have special superpowers or something, and Tua is some kind of unbeatable. I mean, just calm down, all right? Yes, he's great. He's not unbeatable. Comic Dude 45 says, my team should fire their defensive coordinator. He's been horrendous. Who? Is that Purdue you're talking about, Comic Dude? Texas A&M is a sleeper, says TTD Tyler. I think Texas A&M is much better than people think they are. Yeah, they've got 2 losses, and guess who they're 2? Clemson and Alabama. And by the way, they didn't get blown out by either one of those teams. Hell, Texas A&M scored just as many points on Alabama as they did on Clemson, by the way. Yeah, that's the other. I also like the young coach aspect to SEC Dog. I'm a big proponent of that for a lot of reasons. Yeah, Billy Dawson, Alabama fan. The only sensible one in here today, I guess, says Bama is not unbeatable. He has seen them almost lose to Georgia Southern and Louisiana in a row. Yes, they can be beat. Now, I will say that I don't see a bad team beating Alabama this year. Yeah. Zion Payne, good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. He says, hi, man. Been a long time since I've seen you. Well, let's not make it so long before the next time, sir. Then we won't have to say that. Braun Strowman, 179. I don't know if you're trolling. If you are trolling, I guess, I don't know. If you think that's funny or that's somehow going to get me worked up. But Alabama, if they played the worst team in the NFL right now, would lose by 50 points, sir. It wouldn't even be close. You know how many professional athletes are on the NFL teams? 100% of them. There's not 100% of Alabama's team going to the NFL. As a matter of fact, it's probably closer to 25% that would start. So anybody who thinks that Alabama could beat an NFL team, 1, either is high, 2 is drunk, 3 is both, or 4 doesn't know anything about football. Ross and Higgins need to get the ball thrown to them more. I'm tired of the screen I'm tired of the screen passes too, believe me. These bubble screens and these reverses and all this crap. Clemson, a team with Clemson's talent on offense has no business. They don't need to run crap like that, right? When you have the running backs they do, I mean, you can run the ball and make them respect the run and chew up big yardage and actually wear the defense down early in the first half or during the first half, and then move the ball down the field, play action passes and deep passes in general in the second half, and just wear them out. I mean, they won't know what's coming. Once they respect that run, and you have an arm talent and the receivers like Clemson has, game over. Instead, no, let's do some screen passes, bubble screens, reverses. Let's put Travis Etienne in there for one snap. He'll get a 12-yard run. We'll take him right out and put somebody else in there that loses yardage. That's the crap that confuses me and frustrates me. Listen, I feel that Clemson could have been winning by 3 touchdowns at halftime against Syracuse if they had just run the ball down their throat in the first half and taking some shots down the field. But they didn't do that, did they? No. They waited to the end of the game to do that when they absolutely had to do it to win. It could have easily been too late. We were lucky to get out of there with a W. Tennessee doesn't stand a chance against Auburn. Wouldn't it be funny if Tennessee beat South Carolina, though? I think it would be. It'd be funny to me. No, Arkansas can't stop Alabama. I mean, nobody's saying that. Let's not get crazy here. These people with their NFL Alabama thing. Bama versus the Buffalo Bills. Who wins? Come on, stop it. The Buffalo Bills would beat Alabama probably wouldn't even score. And Buffalo would score about 50. Tiger Nation says, high and drunk and don't nothing about football. Sounds a lot like South Carolina's program. Exactly. Arkansas is worse than Tennessee, and that's real bad. I don't know about that. That'd be a good game, right? I mean, let's the Who's Worse Bowl, Arkansas or Tennessee. I'd watch that. Clemson Carson says, how many yards do you think Drew Lock will throw for against the Gamecocks? I have him on my fantasy team, by the way. I can't wait to put him in. I have Trevor Lawrence, too. I'm tempted to put him in, but, I mean, how can you not put Drew Lock in over the Gamecocks? I got to do that. How many yards? I would say between 300 and 400. Let's round it. Let's make it a nice even 350 and 3 or 4 touchdowns easily. Nick Saban would outcoach Bill Belichick. Well, sir, you do realize that Nick Saban spent several years in the NFL and was terrible and came running back to college football, right? Totally different sport, sir. What's up, Wrong on Purpose? The artist formerly known as Drake Luke. Good afternoon and welcome to the stream, sir. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. Who does Oregon play this week? I think I already know the answer to that, but I can't remember who it was. Real deal. He's a real NFL prospect. He's very much like a Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes type of talent. He's an NFL guy. He's got an NFL arm. He's big. He's fast. He'll be, if not the first, maybe the second overall quarterback taken when he comes out. He's fun to watch. Oh, they have a bye this week. Okay, thank you, sir. Pete, you deserve so many more subs. Well, go ahead and add. That's a good time to mention this. Thank you, sir, by the way. I appreciate that. For anybody who's new here, or if you're not new here even, doesn't matter, hit the like and subscribe button. Just click the like button. It's easy to do, right? When I go on other YouTubers' channels, even if I don't particularly like what they're saying, hell, they could be even trashing Clemson for 45 minutes straight. I still hit the like button because they're taking the time to make a video, and I'm watching it. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it. This YouTube algorithm thing, you have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out these days. They change it like once a month, so as soon as you get some sort of a semblance of what they want, they change it on you. Which is frustrating as hell if you're a content creator. But anyway, share it. Sharing helps, and the likes help, and commenting helps, and of course views. But anyway, but thank you, sir. I appreciate that. TTD Tyler says he's been watching since the beginning of the season. Awesome. So I had a lot of content from last season and in the off season too, so you can go back and watch that. Prince 6'1" with his Buckeye leaves and eyeballs. He knows how much I love that. That's why I did it. You'd get a ton more subs if you get rid of the silly ACC homerism. I disagree, sir. Not about the subs part, about the fact that being an ACC guy somehow limits people who want to watch. Example number one, you're here. You're not an ACC guy. As a matter of fact, most of the people on this channel aren't. Yes, so anybody who's just checking in who missed the first part of the stream, I did announce that I will be doing a live play-by-play and reaction video this Saturday at 12 p.m. I normally do either a late afternoon or a nighttime game. I do have to work around what's going on here at home, as well as when Clemson's playing. Clemson's playing at 3:30. I wasn't really interested in doing any of those night games. Only the one at night, I guess, that's the most interesting. There's two of them, right? Virginia Tech and Notre Dame. I probably would have done that if it were earlier in the season and Virginia Tech didn't lose to Old Dominion, but they did. So not so interesting to me anymore. I mean, interesting, but not interesting enough to do the stream for it. And so anyway, I would be doing the Texas and Oklahoma game at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So I usually start the streams about 15 or 20 minutes before the game starts. So 11:45 a.m. is when I'll start streaming, and I'll do the entire game, however long it lasts, 3.5, 4 hours, or whatever it is. Ace Outlaw. Miami versus Florida State. Who do I have? Miami. Miami is favored by 12.5 points, and I have them covering the 12.5. I think they're going to beat the brakes off of Florida State. They better. They should. It's in Miami, and right now is the time to stomp on the throat of the Seminoles if you're a Miami fan. Notre Dame. Yeah, Notre Dame. There's a pretty good shot Notre Dame could go undefeated. Now, even if they caught one loss, the problem with them catching one loss is that their schedule on paper before the season looked a hell of a lot stronger than it does it right now, because obviously they play Florida State, who just later in the year they play them, who's obviously not considered to be a good win right now. Yes, I know everyone's still pointing to that Michigan win, and I guess you could still call that a good win. It's not a bad. I mean, Michigan's not a bad team. But they're certainly not anywhere close to what people were hyping them up to be at the beginning of the season. And I think towards the end of the season, you're going to see Michigan's going to end up with 3 or 4 losses. No shock to me. But everyone else is telling me, they're going to win the Big Ten and challenge Alabama in the playoffs. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. The rest of the teams on that schedule, I mean, they play 6 teams out of the ACC. All of them are sort of disappointing this year. So I don't know. I mean, what's Notre Dame's signature win going to be if they have one loss? Michigan, I guess, right? USC, I guess. I don't know. And just the team that goes undefeated is in the playoff, period. If you're in a Power 5 conference or you're Notre Dame. I'm not talking about UCF. Jim Harbaugh, good afternoon, sir. I was just talking about you. You must have overheard me talking about you, sir. About how overrated you are. But that's no news to anybody. I've been doing that for months and months on end, and I'll continue to do it. Bama, Ohio. Wait, what's Tiger Nation saying here? Bama, Ohio, Notre Dame, and Clemson. That's his Final Four, I guess, as of right now. Hound Dog says Tennessee is beating Auburn, South Carolina, Mizzou, and Vanderbilt. Whoa, sir. Come on now. That's not going to happen. I do believe Tennessee will win. I'm going to stick by this. I said it at the beginning of the season. I'm going to stick by my guns on this. I believe that Tennessee will win at least one SEC game. And, that's not good, but it's better than what they've been doing. Of course, last year they didn't win any, so. If LSU loses to Alabama and won't be able to play in the SEC championship, should they still make the playoffs? Creole Tatted, that's a great question. And thank you for joining us, by the way. That's a great question. And the answer to that is not so cut and dry. It really just depends on what other teams have losses and who they lost to and how they lost. There's so much other crap that goes into it. I mean, sort of like last year, right? They lost to Auburn in the Iron Bowl, didn't make it to the SEC championship, still got in and won the damn thing. So, it just depends. It depends on what everyone else does. I don't think it's going to be very often that you see a one-loss non-conference champion get in, right? Well, I take that back. We've seen it happen twice in 4 years. So we actually saw Ohio State do it. And of course, they got blown out by Clemson that year, and we saw Alabama do it last year. But I don't know. They do get favored, and I know, people complain about Alabama's favoritism with the playoff committee, but there's a reason that they get some favoritism. They've earned it, so it is what it is. I mean, Clemson Carson says Alabama should not have gotten in last year. Well, you can say that, but they were the best team in the country, and they they proved it. They beat the brakes off Clemson and then beat Georgia. So, I mean, they won. It'd be easy to say that they shouldn't have been in there if they would have went in the first round of the playoffs and got beat. But the fact that they actually won a playoff game and then won the national title afterwards, it's kind of hard to argue whether or not they should have been there. Which draftee from this season would make the biggest impact NFL next season as a rookie? Oh, that's a tough question to answer. It depends on which. You'd have to break it down by position. So maybe which quarterback draftee will make the biggest impact? Which defensive end? Because I mean, there's a wide spectrum of different ways to impact a team. Of course, look at somebody like Khalil Mack. I mean, obviously the most dominant player in the NFL, and he's a defensive end. So he makes a huge impact. Just ask John Gruden and also ask the Bears. He's not a quarterback. But, of course, then you have somebody that comes in like Baker Mayfield, who's taken over the worst team in the NFL for the past 20 years, and all of a sudden has them looking like they're good within a couple of weeks. So that's a major impact on that city and on that organization just by that one guy, Baker Mayfield. So which position would I could answer maybe a little bit better? I think whenever Justin Herbert comes out, he's coming out after this year, I think Justin Herbert is eligible for the draft after this year. I think he's going to be a big-time impact rookie quarterback for whoever gets him, wherever he goes. He's that good. Kelly Bryant isn't there no more, so it doesn't matter. Plus, he doesn't care about Kelly Bryant losing in the starting position now. Yeah. TDT Tyler, I guess he's asking. Tiger Nation was answering it for you, but how do I feel about Trevor Lawrence starting over Kelly Bryant? I thought I was calling 2 weeks before Dabo made the change to make the change. I didn't like the comments he made. I don't blame him for leaving, and I'm glad that they made the change. So that's pretty much how I feel about it. Lee Smith says South Carolina should be Clemson's homecoming game. Yeah, it's funny. Jim Harbaugh says, I see you're a Panthers fan. What lose hurt worse, Panthers L or Super Bowl or Clemson L and the Natty? Oh. Are you trying to just twist the knife, sir? The Clemson loss hurt more. Always will, for me. Pete, would you rather go 11-1 and beat South Carolina 70-0, or go 11-1 and lose to South Carolina 70-0 and get knocked out of the playoffs? Oh, 1-11. Oh, I'd rather go 11-1 and lose to South Carolina. 1-11. I mean, listen, losing to South Carolina is one bad night. Going 1-11, that's 10 terrible weeks of the season. No, that sounds awful. No way I want to go 1-11. That sounds painful. All right, guys, it's been over an hour. And what's up, SEC Football Tube? Yeah, it's time for me to get off. I got stuff to do, unfortunately. So thanks for everybody for stopping in. All my mods, everybody who normally stops in. If you're new here, hit the like and subscribe button. Do 2 live shows a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. for 1 hour. And, of course, this Saturday I will be doing a live play-by-play and reaction during the Oklahoma and Texas game, the Red River Shootout, or if that's what you call it now, at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So make plans, fill your beer cooler up, tell your friends about it, shout it out from a mountaintop, tattoo it on your forehead. But if you tattoo it on your forehead, make sure you tattoo it backwards so when you look in the mirror, it reads correctly. I guess that's it. Thanks, everybody, for stopping in. And if I don't see you before then, I will definitely see you Thursday at 4 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Pigskin Pete, checking out.